Okay, Vino Adonai Eloheinu Aleinu Ma'aseh Adenu Kohen Adenu Ma'aseh Adenu Koneu. I'd like to first and foremost thank the host and hostess, Harold and Sandra Kleinman, for graciously opening their home to a Shi'ur Torah. And this Shi'ur Torah, which we're going to discuss, what is probably the most important topic to be discussed, and that is first and foremost how to find a person to marry, and then once you find that person, how do you maintain and have a long-lasting relationship? Now, please don't think that in an hour we're going to be able to cover all of the bases, and please don't think that I am an expert in this. I just happen to be married longer than maybe some of us are, and I'm welcome to have any insights from any of the other people that are married in order to help along. This is it seems like a very easy topic, but it is not. It takes a lot of work, and the rewards are amazing. Just like anything else in life. If a person wants to go to medical school, if a person wants to go to law school, it comes with sacrifices. Be'ezrat Hashem, hopefully, if the person does the right work, sacrifices appropriately, gets the ability and the honor and the privilege to practice the profession that they choose. So first we need to discuss, how do you find the right person? Before we can get to maintaining a relationship once you find the right person, the first question is, how do you find the right person? And if we look, everything what I'm going to say tonight is based on things that I've thought about, and also there's a rabbi by the name of Rabbi Manis Friedman who wrote a book, Why Nobody Blushes Anymore, and I listened to a Shiur Torah from him, and some of the things I'm going to say tonight are based on what he says, but I'm going to try to bring scriptural references for some of the things that he says. So the first person who had to worry about shidduch had the easiest time in the world. Adam Arishon. Adam, first of all, he had an easy time for two reasons. Reason number one, there was nobody else. Reason number two, oh wait. Oh yeah, we're starting already. Come on, don't give the young'uns bad ideas. And the reason number two is because God picked his shidduch for him. Imagine that. Imagine God comes to every man and a woman who's not yet married in a dream, or talks to him and says, by the way, that's the right one. Life is good. Like I was discussing with my daughter on the way here, it says, in the Gemara it teaches us, En simcha ela behatarat sfekot. There is no greater joy, there's no greater happiness a person has than to resolve doubt. The resolution of doubt brings a tremendous amount of happiness. And of course, when we decide to get married, there's always that doubt, is this the right person? And hopefully within a very, very short period of time after being married, you figure out that this is the right person. And we'll talk about, God forbid, if situations happen where we figure out maybe this is the wrong person. So the first thing we have to recognize is, in order to find someone else, step number one is you have to know yourself. If you don't know yourself, how are you going to find someone else? Not only do you have to know yourself, but you also have to have a little bit of an idea of where you want to be. As human beings, we are all goal-oriented. We set various goals for ourselves, short-term goals, medium-term goals, long-term goals. I can't imagine anyone, when they get married, even if they're a divorce attorney, that their goal is that after 10 years, they're going to pack it up and find somebody else. It's not like a business. When you start a business, there are some people that we know that start businesses, and from the day they start the business, the goal is to figure out when they're going to sell it, when they're going to get out of the business. Or we decide we need a car. It's so easy to lease a car. Why is it so easy to lease a car? Aside from the fact that the payments are generally a little bit on the lower side, you're still paying the depreciation anyway. But if you're not happy in 2 or 3 years, what happens? Baruch Hashem, you give it in and you get a new one. Many of the things that we have in life are exactly like that. Our cell phones. We decide we want to go for an iPhone and we want to go for a Samsung. If we're not happy, what happens in 2 years when the battery starts to die and we start to have to charge it every 10 seconds because there's what's called built-in obsolescence? What happens? All right, we get a new phone, it's no problem. We live in a very disposable society. Many of us, we eat and we eat with plastic. Why do we eat with plastic? Because when we're done, it's easy, we can throw it away. So there's lots of things that we try to do to make our lives easy. Marriage is also supposed to make your life easy, but it takes work. So first thing and foremost, a person has to know who they are. Could you mute yourself, please? This way we don't hear you. Thank you so much. So the first step is you have to know yourself. How does a person get to know themselves? That's a toughie. After you're married, if you have to figure things about yourself, hopefully you can ask your spouse to help you out. If you're in a quandary, you don't know what to do, go to the right, go to the left. You ask your spouse, your life partner, which is really what a spouse is, a life partner. And that life partner should know you very, very well and be able to give you some advice based on knowing you in the situation of where to go. But of course, before a person gets married, you don't have that life partner yet. So how does one... Can you mute yourself, please? I'm so sorry, but I can hear everything. So how does a person, before they get married, get to know themselves? And for what I can understand, there's really only 2 ways. You can't get to know yourself by yourself. Because the Talmud teaches us, Adam karov le'atzmo. A person is very close to himself. As a matter of fact, out of all the relatives that you have in the world, the one relative that the closest to you is yourself. And we also learn, the Talmud teaches us, that we know, and we're going to learn in a couple of parashot from now, about if a person gets a blemish, a nega, tzara'at, what does he do, or she do? They go to the Kohen, and the Kohen looks at the blemish and says, is this tahor, is this tameh? And based on that, the person is tahor or tameh, mar'eh Kohen, it says. So you want to go to an expert, a Kohen who's an expert in blemishes, to figure out whether this blemish is tameh or tahor. But what happens? What happens if the person himself is a Kohen? What happens in that situation? He's the world's expert. The Kohen is the world's expert on blemishes. And he himself gets a blemish. What's the halacha? En adam ro'eh bemumo. A person cannot see their own blemishes. That's a problem. So if we have to get to know ourselves, we can do the best we can, but we need objective information. Everything that we have about ourselves is, if anything, subjective information. Where can a person who is not yet married get objective information from? Where is the best source for a person who's not married to get objective information from? Parents. And I'm going to say to you something else, with all due respect to the rabbis. The parents know better. Why? Chas v'shalom, I'm not saying that the parents know more Torah. Maybe that's not the case. Maybe the Rav knows more Torah. But remember, mom and dad have a big disadvantage. They remember you before you could talk. And any parent in this room knows that the personality of their children begins in utero. There are mothers that will say, I know my child based on, I can't understand this because I will never be able to have that experience. Even if I feel myself as a woman today, I can never be a woman, despite what our generation teaches us today. But women will say that they know the personality. We see this in the Torah. What happens in the Torah? Rivka is the first person to have twins, and she's confused because there's this tumult inside of her. And if we look at Rashi, what does Rashi say? When Rivka would go past a house of Avodah Zarah, there was banging to get out from one. And when Rivka would go past a house of Torah, Mitzvot, Ma'asim Tovim, there was another one. She didn't know there were two inside. She thought she had a schizophrenic child. She thought she had a child that didn't know whether which is which. Until she went and had a resolution of the doubt when she went and she received the prophecy that told her, Shnei goyim bebitnech. There are two that are inside you. Shnei goyim bebitnech. Ushne leumim mime'ayich yiparedu. And two separate nations are going to come out of you. Which means Rivka recognized there was something going on, but the resolution was it's not one person, it's actually two people. That she couldn't have known without prophecy, being the first one with twins. So we see that the first place to go when a person wants to know themselves is their parents. Because the parents remember them when they were very small. Certain things about children that all the people who are not yet married, when you're zocher to have Beit Ne'eman B'Yisrael and you have your own children, you'll recognize that there are various things about children that you know from the time that they're very, very young. And so these personality traits are what manifest themselves as the children get older. With the exception of the teenage years where people fall off the wagon a little bit, they get a little nutty, that's okay. This is how God designed us, and hopefully they come back. So all the parents in the room have teenagers, don't be worried, they come back. It takes a little time, they come back. And as we go further and further closer to the time of the Mashiach, the age is later and later when they come back. It used to be 21, now it's I think around 24, 25. So the first place, if a person needs objective evidence regarding themselves, is to look to their parents. Now, parents are not perfect, just like we're not perfect. Parents will give you the best information they can based on what they know. The halakha says that a person is allowed to marry who they want. And maybe they don't have to listen to their parents. But there's a problem with that. There's actually a couple of problems with that. First problem, why don't your parents want you to marry that person? Is the reason they're giving a legitimate reason? Let me give you a non-legitimate reason. We're Sfaradim, how could you bring home an Ashkenazi girl? We're Ashkenazim, how could you bring home a Sephardi girl? These are not legitimate reasons. Why? Because, Baruch Hashem, we see many, many couples, many, many marriages of Ashkenazim and Sfaradim together. Nothing wrong with that. So those kind of things, those are not where children need to listen to their parents. But if a parent says personality, there's things that they see in this other person, that is something you have to take into serious consideration. And the halakha, by the way, is if parents, certainly parents that are Yirei Shamayim, tell their children that they don't want them to marry a certain individual, they have to go ask She'elat Chacham. They must go ask a Rav. So the Rav can make a determination whether the parents are giving a reason that is a legitimate reason or not. But we don't ask the person getting married. Because once again, Adam karov le'atzmo. A person cannot see their own faults, and part of married life is to figure out how to work on our faults with someone who's going to help us with our faults. Help us to identify them, help us to rectify them, and vice versa. So that's one place a person who is not yet married can get what we call objective evidence. Another place you can get objective evidence is from your Rav. Hopefully your rabbi or your spiritual advisor, whatever the situation might be, has some idea about your strengths and your weaknesses. Certainly if they know you, and it doesn't necessarily mean the Rosh Yeshiva, because the Rosh Yeshiva may be a wonderful big Talmid Chacham, but the Rosh Yeshiva may not know you personally. More important would be to ask someone who's a Rav, who knows you personally. Because this is going to help you. So that's two places to get objective evidence. Anybody have any questions on that? It's pretty straightforward. I mean, there's nothing much to say that what we just said is incorrect. There's another factor why parents are very, very important. I don't have to tell anyone in this room, and maybe this is the reason why, Baruch Hashem, there's so many people here, that we see many marriages that don't end up so well. We see many, even amongst the Frum community, 100, 200 years ago, this almost didn't exist. Even though we have Masechet Gitin, how many times was this actually put into practice? Who can give me an example in the Torah? Only Moshe Rabbeinu. And that's only because Moshe Rabbeinu was having an emotional connection with God, and he felt it inappropriate, and he couldn't share himself with his wife, Tzipporah. Is there any other example that we know of any personality in the Tanakh that is divorced? So we see what? Most of the couples in the time of the Torah, what happened? Somehow they were able to make it work. Nowadays, without parental help, and I'm not talking financial help, that's a whole separate issue. I'm talking parental emotional help. It is very, very difficult for a couple to be able to be successful. So one has to be very cautious if the parents are not agreeing, certainly if it's for a good reason. And if the support is not going to be the same, that's going to make it much more difficult for there to be success. I'll prove it to you from the Torah. It says, Al ken ya'azov ish et aviv ve'et imo ve'davak be'ishto ve'hayu lebasar ehad. And therefore, a man shall leave his father and mother and cling to his wife, and they shall be one flesh.
Not after marriage, not before marriage.
That's right. So we know after they're married, then he clings to his wife. What about before he's married?
Listen to his parents.
That's right. One has to very seriously take in consideration what the parents are saying for all the reasons that we just mentioned. Okay. Unfortunately, there's no marriage manual. The Talmud tells us that there was something called Sefer HaRefuot. If this book wasn't hidden by the Chachamim, or by Chizkiyahu actually, I would be out of a job. I'm not talking about my night job, I'm talking about my day job. There would be no doctoring for me to do. So Sefer HaRefuot, this was a way we were able to heal people, and this was hidden. Why was it hidden? Because people didn't rely on God being the one to heal. There is no book. When I got married, I didn't get a book from my mother. By the way, read this book. This is the book that's going to tell you all the secrets of being married. Why maybe 100 years ago, I don't know how many books were written on Shalom Bayit. Nowadays, Baruch Hashem, you go to the bookstore, there's all kinds of books on Shalom Bayit. I have to tell you, some of them are good, a lot of them are not. Why can't we look at a book from 300? Why didn't Rav Yosef Karo, in addition to Shulchan Aruch, write a whole book on how to be happily married? Where did people learn what marriage was supposed to look like? They learned it from their parents. And that wasn't an instruction like a class like this. This was living with parents. The children saw, and I'm going to take full responsibility as parents, maybe we're not doing such a good job like our grandparents and great-grandparents did. And there's lots of reasons for that. But that being said, 100, 200, 300 years ago, it was almost passed on clearly. There was no need for a book. And of course, if children got into a little bit of trouble, what would they do? They would go talk to their parents. So we see how important it is to have parental support for what this is the most important decision in your life. There is no decision that is more important for a person when they're getting married than who they are marrying. There is no decision that's more important than that. Because this is the person, as we see, we know that Leah, she was crying. Why was she crying? Because she didn't want to be married to Esav Harasha. Ene Leah Rakot. Yet, the Talmud teaches us that Yaakov was punished when he put Dinah in a box when they met Esav the second time. Why was Yaakov punished? Because Dinah could have changed Esav. Leah could not. Now, how could it be? I mean, they had some qualities of the same. Vatetze Dinah bat Leah. What does Rashi say over there? Yatzanit bat Yatzanit. One who goes out, the daughter of one who goes out. Vatetze Leah, it says. So we see they had some qualities together. What about Dinah could have helped her to potentially change this evil Esav? Because Dinah, in her growing up, was exposed to Yaakov and Leah and Rachel. She was exposed to what does a good marriage look like. What does a marriage look like when there is a righteous father and a righteous mother? Unfortunately, Leah, despite the fact of the huge tzaddiket that she didn't have that experience growing up. She saw Betuel. This was Rasha. This was her father. I'm sorry, Lavan. So she saw her father and grandfather, two Rishaim. So first, children need to hopefully learn from their parents, and parents have to be very, very careful to be good role models for what a successful marriage looks like. We'll get to the parents in a second, the adults who are married already. But working on that relationship is not just important for yourself and for your spouse. It's important for your children. Because your children need to know what a healthy relationship looks like. No problem. We don't want to pass down bad habits to our children. And it's never too late. Okay. If we look at the Torah talks a lot about one particular mitzvah. It's actually a bunch of mitzvot. We're going to read a whole sefer in the near future that talks about the Avodah and the Bet HaMikdash, or the Avodah and the Mishkan. We just read 4 parashot, actually 4.5, that dealt with the Mishkan. Truma, Tetzaveh, a piece of Kitisa, Vayakel, and Pekudei. All these parashot are dealing with same topic. The Torah goes into exquisite detail about the Mishkan. The Tanakh goes into exquisite detail about the building of the Bet HaMikdash. Yechezkel goes into exquisite detail about the building of the Bet HaMikdash HaShlishi, about the third temple that Bezrat Hashem should be built in Mirabi Amenu. Why does the Torah go into such detail about the building of the home for God? The whole world is the home for God. What does the Mikdash, what does the Mishkan represent?
Marriage. Should represent a marriage and a connection.
What about the marriage does it represent?
בנו לי משכן ושכנתי בתוכם, בתוך הלב.
Tocham, okay, good.
בתוך הלב.
But why do we need Mishkan? From that pasuk I can learn I don't need a Mishkan. I can make the Mishkan inside me.
Yeah.
Bilvavi Mishkan evneh. I'll build a Mishkan in my heart. What do I need a temple for? Why do I need a tabernacle? The Mishkan, the Mikdash, is a place for a Jew to be intimate with God. And intimacy is not meant to be had anywhere. That level of intimacy is reserved for the Mikdash. That's why once the Mishkan was in Shiloh, all the bamot were forbidden. Why were the bamot? Why can't I just build myself a mizbeach in my backyard like I've been doing for the past couple of, 30, 40 years? And once the temple was built in Yerushalayim, the bamot were forbidden forever. A person who builds a mizbeach in his backyard, even if it's in Israel, very bad. Why? Because once the temple was established, that was the place that was reserved for that intimacy. Marriage is supposed to solve an issue. As we see in the Torah, when man was before he had separated from him Chava, Lo tov heyot ha'adam levado, e'eseh lo ezer kenegdo. We read throughout all of Breshit, Kitov, 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 over and over again. When he made man, he said, Kitov me'od. Suddenly he gets to man, after the creation, and God says, Lo tov heyot ha'adam levado. Meaning what? Being alone is not tov. Marriage is supposed to solve that problem. There's nothing worse for a person than being alone. Let's contrast that with lonely. A person can feel lonely. Their spouse is halfway across the world. They feel lonely. But they should not be alone. There's a song from the 70s by Billy Joel. Piano Man. They're sharing a drink they call loneliness, but it's better than drinking alone. Which means even two people that are feeling lonely don't have to be alone. Marriage is supposed to help solve that problem. Being alone is not just lo tov. What does it mean lo tov? It's not just not good from a spiritual point of view. It's not good from a physical point of view. It's not good from an emotional point of view. I can tell you that as a doctor. There are many patients that I see, couples that have been married for a very long time. When one spouse leaves before the other, we have to pay very close attention to the one that is left. And the children often in that situation, I've told them, you have to pick up the slack. You cannot allow your dad or your mom to feel alone. They just lost a partner that they had for 40, 50, 60, or 70 years. They've lived the majority of their life not knowing what it is to be alone. You can't allow them to feel alone. Where is the place? We said we're never supposed to be alone. There's a concept of home. And this is the idea of the Mishkan. This is a bayit for Hashem. Now, the whole world is God's place. But this is a place that is specifically reserved for a close and intimate relationship with God. This is what a home is supposed to be. A home is a place that cures the problem of being alone. Sometimes people, when they're together, they're married, they don't like each other. And there are times when they can not like each other. There's times they can like each other. It can change depending on the ups and downs of life. And if people don't like each other, when they go to someone who's going to counsel, they're going to go through, why don't you like him? Come on, maybe work it out through. This is what Aharon used to do. Ohev shalom, rodef shalom, karevan la Torah. And gets them close to the Torah. We know in the morning we say, there's certain things that the Keren is kayemet la'olam haba, which means the principle, a person is only rewarded in the world to come, but the perot, or the interest a person gets in olam hazeh. And one of these things is hava'at shalom ben adam le'ishto, ben adam le'chavero. Bringing shalom between people is a reward in olam hazeh and in olam haba. Olam haba is straightforward. All the mitzvot we get reward in olam haba. There's no chidush there. Where's the reward in olam hazeh? If you can bring shalom between two people, then clearly you must have shalom yourself. That's why often before I give a class like this, I ask my wife if I'm ready to give a class like this. If she says no, then I would have had to cancel and reschedule. Unfortunately, now it's more complicated. What do people complain about now? They may not like each other, but the bigger problem is when a married couple, each one feels alone, or even one of the couple feels alone. And just like anything else, if we are basar echad, if this is what the Torah teaches us, that we are basar echad, that we are one flesh, if my toe is infected, do I say to myself, it's only my toe, not going to worry about that? And then the foot gets infected. You know what? It's still far away from my heart. I got time. That's a fool. If a husband and wife are basar echad, when something bothers one, it bothers the other. And vice versa. This is how a person doesn't feel alone. When they feel they have someone to help them through life. Because life is difficult. There are times when life is easy, and there are times when life is not so easy. And when people are together and the relationship is working well, they can get through anything. There are marriages that are functional. This one takes the kids to school, this one picks up the kids from school, this one does the shopping, this one does the earning, this one does the synagogue stuff, this one does the PTA stuff. It's like a business relationship. That marriage might work, but is it going to bring happiness to both couples? Both of the couples, both of the people. What do we call a Jewish marriage? The first step in a Jewish marriage is a man takes something of value and basically says a couple of words. Harei at mekudeshet li b'taba'at zo kedat Moshe veYisrael. Or if you're Syrian, Harei at mekudeshet li b'kaspa haden kedat Moshe veYisrael. The Syrians do it with coins. Like my mother-in-law used to say, that my father-in-law bought her with coins. Now let's clarify that for 1 second, because this is a very common misconception. What does that mean, you buying her? It's called a kinyan, yes? That's what it's called. Marriage is a kinyan. But let's understand this a little deeper. When you buy something, you buy it from whoever owned it beforehand, and you take it for yourself. If you're getting married, and we're going to say that you're buying your wife, you have to be buying her from someone. If you were buying her from her father, you wouldn't be giving her the money. You would be giving her father the money. So that's not the idea. Ki yikach ish isha. What is yikach? Take what? Take a woman?
No?
When a man gets married, he takes upon himself responsibility. The Torah, there are no rights. There are very few rights, if any, in the Torah. I know our American system is built up on rights. If everybody was doing their obligation, nobody needs any rights. The Torah is a system of mitzvot. Getting married is a mitzvah on the man. Just like having children is a mitzvah on the man. It's very difficult to fulfill that mitzvah without a help, without a partner. Both the marriage part and the children part. But the mitzvah is on the man, and therefore the action is on the man. And what does he do? He gives her something, not to her father, not to her mother, something of value publicly. Why is that? That's called kiddushin. What is kiddushin? Kiddushin is when the man understands his responsibilities. The Torah teaches us, she'era kesuta ve'onata lo yigra. I'll translate. She'era is food. Kesuta is clothing and shelter. Onata is intimacy. These are three obligations that a man takes upon himself when he gets married. If a man is not ready to take upon those three obligations, he is not ready to get married. Despite what we may hear from other places, I've had this once, or more than once I can say, where there is a woman, she was married, wonderful man, learning yeshiva from the morning until the night. Baruch Hashem, she had a full-time job, and Baruch Hashem, she had 3 kids with one on the way. And she was managing the 3 children and the full-time job. And I'm not saying learning Torah is not work, please. Tzu yiladecha teshi. The Torah weakens the man, I get it. And she came to me and she wanted me to help her because she needed her husband to get a job. Because she couldn't do it anymore. She was plotzing. And I'll tell you something, I challenge any man in this room who is married with younger children to let his wife go away for a couple of weeks and do the full-time job and the taking care of the children, and then you'll begin to understand what it is to be a woman. So I met both of them, and she told me, I can't do it anymore. I can't. She was having depression issues, other kind of stuff like that. So I turned to him and I said, all right, it's time to get a job. He said, no, that's not the deal. When we get married, I learned that I'm going to learn. And when we got married, my wife agreed she was going to work. I said to him, Yisachar and Zvulun were brothers. I don't recall Yisachar and Zvulun being a husband and wife. When Rabbi Akiva went to learn for 12 years and 24 years, that was with his wife's permission. And what happens, it says he came back after 12 years with 12,000 students because he was an Am Haaretz Gamur when he started off. And he comes back and he looks in the window and he sees his wife talking to her friend. And the friend says, my gosh, your husband's already for 12 years. How is this working for you? And what does she say? If he would come and ask me now, I'd tell him to go for another 12 years. So what does he do? He turns around and he goes for another 12 years and gets 24,000 students. But we see that was with her permission. What if she would have said, I miss him so much, I can't do this anymore. He would have come in the door and say, hi, honey, I'm home. So this wonderful young man said to me, I have to ask my Rebbe. I said, to be honest with you, do you ever play poker? He said, no, because he's a learned man. I said, in poker, I see your Rebbe and I raise you God. And I quoted the pasuk, She'era kesuta ve'onata lo yigra. There's a lo ta'aseh in the Torah that says you are forbidden to withhold clothing, food, and shelter and intimacy from your wife. Okay, the intimacy is not so hard for the guys. But the clothing and the shelter, you have to give this to her. The fact that she allowed you for the past 2, 3, 5, 10 years to learn, say thank you and appreciate it. She can't do it anymore. Now you go back to the obligation you took when you got married. Unfortunately, there's a lot of guys that don't learn that. Show me someplace where it says differently. Show me that. If you want to learn full time, make sure you marry a girl that's got a lot of money that her father-in-law can support you. But the fact that she should support you, there's a number of problems with that. Problem number one is you're not doing your responsibility. And that's a big thing. Problem number two is we have to recognize that what do women, in addition to not being alone, and by the way, women can do better than men alone. Okay? Usually, when there's a couple that's been married for a long time, when the wife dies, the husband's gone in 3 to 6 months. You go to Florida, there's lots of ladies that are all by themselves. They've been like that for 20 years. So women have the ability to be, they can live alone more than men. Men don't do very well alone, especially not when they haven't been alone for a long time. Aside from the fact that you're not fulfilling the responsibility, women also look for safety and security. If you don't believe me, men, just ask your mothers when you go home. And if you're married, ask your wife. She'll tell you that. That's what they're looking for. No matter, even if she's a black belt, and she could whip your behind in a big way, when there's someone at the door that looks like they're an unsavory character, I don't think that she's going to want to be the one to go first. Generally, that's, even if you have to fall, at least you die trying. And then she'll kick his butt. This is an important yesod. And in a situation where the man is not providing that safety and security, there's no way that the wife can be happy. And there's a saying, it rhymes in many, many languages. I've heard it in Hindi, I've heard it in English, I'm sure it's in Arabic. A happy wife is a happy life. Figure out the opposite of that. So the Torah says, She'era kesuta ve'onata. Baruch Hashem, we're all adults here, yes? Onata is intimacy. How does the Torah word it? Onata is feminine possessive. Translated really, her time. That's onata. Ona is time. Onata, her time. Therefore, why does the Torah have to command a man to engage in intimate relations with his wife? Most men, that's sort of built in. That's to remind the men that it's not just the 20-minute show. It's all the preparation that's before. The communication and the talking and the support. This is what allows a woman to feel close. Not to say that it's only a man's responsibility, but if we look at the Torah, can anybody quote me a pasuk that says what a woman's responsibility is in marriage? Okay, we know she's not allowed to be having relations with other men. That's pretty clear. It's not good for him to do that either, obviously. But what does the Torah say as her responsibilities? Anybody know a pasuk? There is none. There is none. You have a pasuk? I'm all ears. That's on the man. That's not on her. You know why the Torah doesn't command anything for a woman to do in a marriage?
She already knows.
Come on, ladies. That's not the right answer.
Because she already knows. She doesn't have to.
What?
It's natural to them.
That's right. Say it louder.
It's natural to you guys.
It is natural for a woman when she is being treated appropriately to do all the things that the Torah doesn't say she has to do. The fact that the Torah commands the man means that it's not natural for a man. That's not to say a woman doesn't have obligations in a marriage. Of course she does. What is the greatest thing a woman can give her husband in a marriage? There's things that she looks for, there's things that he looks for. If you remember nothing else than what I just said, and right now I'm going to say now, and you put this into your lives, you can go home. A woman in a marriage craves appreciation. Appreciation for all the things that she does. A man in a marriage, as much as the ladies live on appreciation, the man lives on compliments. This is how we are wired. If a woman is criticizing her husband, that's the equivalent to your husband not appreciating what you do. And that's why I'm not going to say there aren't things that we need to talk about, but if it comes across as a criticism, that is damaging to the relationship. The Kiddushin is not the woman is holy, and it's not the man is holy. What is holy is the marriage. A husband and wife, the most important thing they have to respect is the marriage. How does one show respect? When you communicate, communication is best done face to face. Communication by telephone, communication by email, communication by text messaging, communication by other means. That's only when you're far apart. I don't mean far apart emotionally. I mean far apart physically. He's in Israel and you're here. There's no way to communicate face to face, although you can do FaceTime, I guess. Most of the communication that we do at home between a husband and wife should be face to face. If the children see their parents are not communicating face to face, the children are smart enough to recognize that something is wrong. And they need to learn what face-to-face communication look like. Especially children growing up now, when 80% of their communication is not face-to-face. There's one place where texting is not a good idea. And that's when a husband and wife are home. They should not be texting each other. They should not be calling out to each other from across the house. If you have something to say to your spouse, get up, go to where your spouse is, and talk to him or talk to her. A person can pray anywhere. Where is the best place to pray? In Bet HaKnesset. Why? Because that is a place reserved for intimate communication with God. That is the closest to face that we can get, short of the Kotel HaMa'aravi and short of the Binyan of the Bet HaMikdash. If you look at all of Sefer Vayikra, when the Korbanot are brought, what does it say? Lifnei Hashem. All the Korban is from the Lashon of Karov, closeness, is Lifnei Hashem, which means before God, or translated word for word, or exactly, in the face of God. What symbolizes face-to-face relationship in the Torah? Panim el panim ad berbo, yes. But what, after Moshe Rabbeinu died, symbolized face-to-face? That's Moshe. What happened after Moshe died? It's a very strange thing the Torah tells us to do. You know, we don't do idols, we don't make graven images. But yet, on the Aron Kodesh, in the Kodesh Kodashim, we have two kruvim, Poresei Kenafayim, golden angels that have the face of a baby. And these kruvim had a special quality. The Kohen Gadol, when he would go into the temple, into the Kodesh Kodashim, during the first temple, would be able to size up right away how God's relationship was with the Jewish people by seeing whether the kruvim are face to face or not. But it's more than that. Even when Shlomo HaMelech built the first Bet HaMikdash, the kruvim were already not facing each other. Because it says in the day that Shlomo HaMelech took Bat Par'ah, it was already decided in the future the Bet HaMikdash was going to be destroyed. What does it mean the kruvim are not facing each other? There are two kruvim, yes? One kruv represents God, the Shekhinah. The other kruv represents Am Yisrael. There's one kruv that doesn't change at all. Ani Hashem lo shaniti. The kruv that represents the Shekhinah doesn't change. The only kruv that changes is the one that represents Am Yisrael. When we turn our face from God, Kav Yachol, God turns his face from us. But not really. You fix that. How do you fix that? By turning your face back to God. That's called teshuvah. The relationship with God is easy, contrary to what most people say. God is erech apayim. God has patience. God forgives. People, on the other hand, are more complicated. If you're husband and wife, and let's say they get into some type of disagreement, So they're no longer facing each other. They can only talk by texting because they can't bear to see each other. By the way, very, very bad idea. Texts are very easily misunderstood. Texts stay in the phone forever. Some things are better forgotten, especially after the person apologizes and said they didn't mean it. Do you really want to read that text again? So really, that's a very poor way of communication. But you might have a disagreement, and the husband and wife are not facing each other. Let's say, for argument's sake, the wife is ready to talk, but the husband's not ready to talk. They're not facing each other yet. The only way to talk is to be facing each other. One of the most effective ways, if anybody's ever gone to therapy, what they do is they'll take the couple and they'll put them back to back. Okay, now talk to each other. It's not so easy. And within a very short period of time, what's happening? You're turning around. Because when we communicate with each other, there's a lot of facial stuff and nonverbal stuff that we're communicating also. That's very important in intimate communication between a husband and wife. When the kruvim are facing each other, that's what causes the shekhinah to happen. That's sochechin bekanfehem. What is sochechim? From the language of schach, which represents the shekhinah. Which means when the couple are facing each other and talking and communicating in a healthy way, this is ish ve'isha zachu shekhinah benehem. A husband and wife that have merit, which means they know how to communicate. Shekhinah benehem. Lo zachu esh ochelatam. They don't have the zechut. It's fire. And it's one thing to have fire outside the house. You go into your house. Everybody sometimes has a tough day at work. They have all kinds of things that happen. Maybe somebody, God forbid, lost their job. They lost a lot of money. Somebody flipped them the bird. They were driving in Brooklyn. Spoiled your whole day. You want to be able to come home, and that should be a place of shalom. And that takes a lot of work. Shalom bayit. The shalom is in the bayit. When there's shalom in the bayit, the shekhinah is there. When there's no shalom, there's no shekhinah. That's in the Bet Knesset. That's in the home. Let's talk a little bit about love. Because unfortunately, we've been fed some lies. You know, when I grew up, I wasn't nursed. I was given bottle feeding. That's why I turned out the way I am. Because in the 60s, the doctors were smarter than God. They told women, we've come up with formula. First of all, the 60s, women were having the liberation, all that kind of stuff. They don't want to be tied to have to, God forbid, nurse this baby over there. And the doctors came up with formula. Of course, there was money to be made. You know, listen, nursing doesn't cost too much except what you've eaten for yourself. Buying formula is a whole separate world. And of course, the hospitals that participated, they gave these ladies when they left formula. Basically saying there's no difference. It's the same thing. It took about 10 or 15 years, and the doctors realized that was the most ridiculous thing we ever did. All the hormones, all the immunoglobulins that are transferred in breast milk help protect the baby for the first 6 months when the immune system is weak. Now, if a woman can't nurse, Baruch Hashem, we have formula. We don't have to go get a wet nurse and worry about hepatitis. We don't have to worry about that. Baruch Hashem, we have Enfamil. Not like Moshe Rabbeinu, they had to get a wet nurse because Bitya wasn't pregnant, so she didn't have any milk to give Moshe Rabbeinu, and he wouldn't take from any of the Gentile women because Moshe Rabbeinu was very makpid on Chalav Goyim. He only went to Chalav Yisrael. So the secular world does all kinds of studies and investigations and all that kind of stuff. And you know what? In medicine, when, 100 years ago, all you had was 3 or 4 medications, digoxin, allopurinol, and aspirin. That's all you had. All right, so you had nothing. Now, Baruch Hashem, you have something, you have to test it. So the first thing you tested is versus placebo. And then after you have something that works, you have to test the new things or what works, Baruch Hashem. What if you have something you know works? And how do you know it works? Because for 4,000 years it worked. You mean to tell me you're going to do studies and prove that that doesn't work? And you're going to trust those studies? We have a Torah. And unlike the secular world, we have a Torah that's given to us by God. One can say that within the Torah contains the manual for how to live your life. How to live a happy life, how to live a married life. This is in the Torah. The secular world teaches us that all you need is love. That's all you need. If you got love, you got everything. Unfortunately, that's not true. First of all, there's 2 kinds of love. I can say, like my rabbi used to tell me, let's say people love fish. They love salmon. So what do? When you love salmon, you go to the market, you buy yourself a salmon, you hit it on the head, you bring it home, you cook it, you scale it, you do all kind of stuff, and then you eat it. If you loved the salmon, what would you do? You throw them back in the water. When you love fish, you love yourself if you eat it. So it's very difficult to tease out what part of love is selfish and what part of love is selfless. I'll give you a hint. The part of love that is selfish makes you exhausted. The part of love that is selfless, you're never exhausted. When a person's only thinking about themselves, ve'ata ayef ve'yageya. When you're thinking about yourself, ve'ata, so we read in Zachor, ayef ve'yageya. When you're thinking about somebody else, you're not ayef, and you're not yageya. You have plenty of energy to help other people. It's only when you're only helping yourself that you get tired. So we have to be careful because love, a piece of that is loving yourself. And unfortunately, if a lot of loving yourself is what it's all about, you think you love your spouse, but the reason you love your spouse is because you love yourself. Because you love all the things that this person is doing for you. And when this person stops doing things for you for whatever reason, what, you stop loving them? Well, then you love yourself. You really never love them. Let's look what the Torah teaches us about love. We have one example in Breshit, chapter 24, verse number 67. Talking about Rivka. Vayevi'eha Yitzhak ha'ohela Sarah imo, vayikach et Rivka vatehi lo leisha, vaye'ehaveha. Vayinachem Yitzhak ahare imo. Translated. And Yitzhak brought Yitzhak brought Rivka into the tent of his mother. And when, if you look at Rashi, because the Torah doesn't say this clearly, Yitzhak saw that the light came back on, like after his mother had when she was alive, mother died, everything stopped. Despite the fact that there was Avraham and Yitzchak, arguably 2 of the greatest tzaddikim ever, Sarah is gone, there's no Ner Daluk. What, Avraham Avinu can't light a candle? Yitzchak can't light a candle? Well, they can light candles, but that's not a spiritual candle. When Sarah died, that stopped. There was no bracha and Isa, there was no blessing to the bread. When Yitzhak brought Rivka into the house, and the candle was lit again, meaning that spirituality came back to the house, and there was bracha in the Isa, there was bracha in the dough. He realized that this is the right woman. Why was she the right woman? Because she's just like his mother. Then what does it say? Vatihi lo leisha. He took her as a wife. Vaye'ahaveha. And then he loved her. Yes? So we see according to this, first people get married, and then they love. Now let's go to probably one of the greatest romance stories in the entire Torah. A couple parashot later, chapter 29, verse number 18. Vaye'ehav Yaakov et Rachel. Vayomer e'ovodcha sheva shanim berachel bitecha haketana. The Torah says that Yaakov Avinu loved Rachel before. So we see there's an idea that sometimes we get married and then we love. Sometimes we love and then we get married. But really, it should be both. You love, you get married, and then you love more. But that doesn't work if you're loving yourself. But we have a glaring example where no love is mentioned ever. Which one? Sarah. What does it say by Sarah? In chapter 12 in Genesis, verse number 11. Vayhi kasher hikriv lavo Mitzrayima. When Abraham came close to Egypt, Vayomer el Sarai ishto, he said to Sarai, by the way, this, as far as the Torah is concerned, is the first communication that we see between Abraham and Sarah. Vayomer el Sarai ishto, hine na yadati, now I finally know, ki isha yifat mare'at, that you are a beautiful woman. Where does it say that he loved her? Nowhere. Do we think that Avraham Avinu didn't love his wife? Avraham Avinu is Isha Chesed. What is Chesed about? Giving. Selfless. How much was Avraham willing to give? Everything. The Torah doesn't have to mention that Avraham loved his wife. Of course he loved his wife. He loved everyone. But he loved his wife more than anyone. When love is selfish, no one else benefits. Just like when a person is hungry and you eat, no one else gets their hunger satisfied. Selfish love is personal. It's about you. Selfless love is interpersonal. It's about other people. So the love that we're talking about in the secular world, that we read about in Hollywood, this is not the love that the Torah is talking about. Love is like a spice. If you're making yourself a cholent, or you're making yourself some type of a dish, it's very important to put some spices in there. It raises up the flavor. But you don't eat spices. Nobody eats pepper. So we see we cannot live just with love. There has to be much more to a relationship than just love. Love is a part of it. It's the spice of the relationship. And what is love about? We see from the holy language of Hebrew. Ahava, it's about hav, which is to give. If you are not giving to someone else, you are not loving someone else. If you are taking, you are loving yourself. What should you love? Anything important in your life you should love. Yes? You should give to things that are important. You should give as much as you can to everyone. But you have to specifically give the most to those that are the most important. We said from the beginning, when I was talking to the people that are not yet married, the most important decision you're going to make is who you marry. Well, that person is the most important person in your life. And therefore, that person should be the recipient of almost all of your giving. That doesn't mean you can't give other places, but you have to give at home. As we say in English, charity starts at home. Or, as we see in the Torah, Aniye arecha kodmin. The poor of your city come first. We know there's a mitzvah to love other Jews. Why is there a mitzvah to love other Jews? Because Jews are important. So anything important, we have a mitzvah to love. God is important. Therefore, we have a mitzvah to love Hashem. I want to talk a little bit about home, and then we'll finish up. And I'll answer questions if I can. We mentioned early on that the Torah spends a lot of time talking about the Mishkan, about the dwelling place of God in the world. Now, God dwells everywhere, but that's the place where we have the most intimate connection with God. That's what a person's home is supposed to be. This is what it means when a couple gets married, and often you'll hear people say, you should be zochet to build a bayit ne'eman beYisrael. When I got married, I didn't really know what that meant. I think I might have figured some of it out. What does it mean to build? Building takes effort, takes work. Look at the building of the Mishkan. The building of the Mishkan took a tremendous amount of effort. What type of effort was needed to build the Mishkan? Thoughtful effort. Lachshov mahashavot. We know that on Shabbat, the only melacha that the Torah forbids is melacha that was done in the Mishkan. To build it. Because building the Mishkan is not doche Shabbat. But what type of melacha is forbidden from the Torah? Only melechet mahshevet. Only melacha with intent. Melacha that is unintentional is not asur from the Torah. It has to involve intent. I want that melacha to happen. All the melacha, all the avodah, all the efforts that a person does in his home to build a home have to be with machshava. Have to be with thought and intent. Intent for what? Intent for making the marriage kadosh. To giving proper kavod and respect to the marriage. You respect your spouse because your spouse is part of your marriage. A person has to think that when they're home, they're in the best place that they can be. If a person is at home and they don't think that, then they have more work to do. Home should be a place where we feel comfortable. Home should be a place where we don't feel alone. Home should be a place where women receive appreciation and men receive compliments. And we can start this right away. It doesn't take a lot of time. Why is it called Bayit Ne'eman? What is Ne'eman? Translate that word. Trustworthy. What word is hidden in Ne'eman? Emunah. What type of emunah do we have to have in Hashem? Complete. Ani ma'amin be'emunah shelema. We're going to read about Parashat Zachor this coming Shabbat, yes? Zachorta she'asa lecha Amalek. What does Amalek represent? Safek, doubt. Machot timchet zecher Amalek means look inside yourself. Do you have any doubt with regarding God? If you do, that's Amalek. What's your obligation? To destroy it, to remove it, to erase it. A Jew should not have any doubt whatsoever. If a Jew doesn't have any doubt, then technically, a Jew is never alone. Even if they don't have a spouse. Because God is always there. And we understand that one of the things that is necessary in life is this concept of the simcha. Which you have many marriages that are okay, meaning they're okay. But is there simcha? Are they happy with each other? Are they happy together? Part of that is to recognize that there are three partners in a marriage. There's God, there's the husband and the wife. And the more the husband and wife involve God in their lives, the more happiness there can be. The more emunah a person has, the more shalem their emunah has, the more simcha a person's going to have because there's no safek. What did we say from the beginning? En simcha ela behatarat sfekot. There's no greater simcha than the resolution of doubt. What does it mean to build a bayit ne'eman be'Yisrael? Each person has no doubt regarding their spouse. It is the job of the husband and the wife to make sure that there is never doubt. Doubt that this person wants to be with me. Doubt that this person is faithful to me. There should never be doubt. In fact, a person has to make whatever efforts they can to be assured that there should be no doubt. I want to quote from something the Rambam says. The only part of the Mishneh Torah that really talks about Shalom Bayit. And look what he chooses to talk about. V'chova al kol ish lekanot leishto. It is a requirement for every man, lekanot. Now, it doesn't mean jealous in a crazy way, like getting, private investigators and videoing this person wherever they go, like body cameras and stuff like that. That's nuts. And there's an abnormal jealousy. You have to consult psychiatry for that. But it's healthy and is a chovah for a man. And the Rambam's going to say, what does this mean? Amru Chachamim, our rabbis taught us. En adam mekaneh leishto ela im ken nichnesa bo ruach tahora. A man is jealous from his wife when he has ruach tahora. Why? He doesn't want to share her. When a couple get married, we're not sharing. That's disgusting. And because men are generally, even though they won't admit it, more insecure, we're better at poker. But that doesn't mean on the inside. What did I say a man needs? Compliments. A woman doesn't need compliments. That's not to say a man shouldn't compliment his wife. Of course he should. But a woman needs appreciation. It's very different. V'lo yikanela beyoter midai. The Rambam says don't get crazy because he was a doctor, so I'm sure he saw crazy people too. But you should not be overly jealous, which means, she's going to the supermarket. Wait, you relax. Take it easy. By the way, if you see that controlling, jealous type before marriage, run in the other direction. And then the Rambam says, "V'lo ye'enos ota." Remember, the Rambam grew up in Spain. He was in the Muslim world, yes? Arabs don't rape their women. They just hold a gun to their head and said, "Will you have sex with me or I'm going to kill you?" And then she says, "Of course I'm going to have sex with you, so it's not rape." I kid you not. That's really what they think. A Jewish man is not allowed to do that. To get the gun, she'll hit him in the head. No, he's not allowed to do that. Why? Because what did we say? Onata. When a man is being intimate with his wife, he has to remember something. It's not about you. It's about her. Shelo yavo lidei hirhur. I'm sorry. And when a man is having relations with his wife, yes, he can't rape her. That's not allowed, of course. But it should be with her da'at, with her agreement. But not just with her agreement, like with her arm twisted behind her back. Umitoch sicha. What is sicha? Conversation. Which means what it says in Pirkei Avot, al tarbesim ha'im. It doesn't say you shouldn't talk to her at all. And Pirkei Avot is saying something very interesting. Stop talking. Be a better listener. Al tarbesim ha'im. Which means, listen. Do a better job listening. What's the most common complaint that the woman has about her husband? It doesn't listen to me. What do you mean? I heard everything you said. No, you don't listen. You're not listening. You guys will figure that out when you get married. But when it comes time for intimacy, now it's not about listening. Now there has to be sicha. There has to be conversation. Which means there has to be some type of discussion or talking or vesimcha. Happiness. And this is what gives the glue that holds the relationship together. Again, it's not just about relations, because that alone is not going to work. Now the Rambam says, V'chen tzivu chachamim al ha'isha. Remember I told you the Torah doesn't say anything about what the woman's obligation are? That's correct. But the rabbis did. Because the rabbis' wives told them exactly what to say. Shetiyeh tznuah b'toch betah. A woman has to be modest in her home. We see the Rambam's focus is on the home. What does it say? Ner ish ubeito. En beito ela ishto. His home is his wife. That is his place. There is no other place for him except with his wife. And she has to be modest inside her house. If she has to be modest inside her house, kal vachomer, she has to be modest outside the house. What happens if she's not modest outside the house? Then the husband starts to get concerned or jealous. And this is not allowed for the wife to be doing that. And tzniut is not just about how we dress. Tzniut is about how we talk. Tzniut is about how we act. V'lo tarbes chok v'kalut rosh bifnei ba'ala. And she shouldn't joke around a lot before her husband. Because he has to respect her. V'lo titba tashmish hamita befiha. And the wife is not supposed to, the woman is not supposed to outright say she wants relations. This is a lack of tzniut. She's allowed to hint, but shouldn't say it outright. V'lo tiyeh medaberet be'esek zeh. She shouldn't talk a lot about this. V'lo timna mi'ba'ala kedei letza'aro. And she's not allowed to prevent herself from being with him to make him suffer. That is a very, very dangerous situation. Come on, guys. We're going to get to the man's part in a second. Don't worry, ladies. The Rambam said the best place for last. V'tizaher mikrovav u'bnei beto. And she has to be careful not to make him jealous with his own relatives and the people in the house, which means not the children, God forbid, that's disgusting. But which means we see how cautious a woman has to be regarding not to have her husband to become jealous. And that's not in a crazy person. That's talking about a normal guy. Kidei shelo ya'avor alav ruach kin'ah, so that he should not have this ruach kin'ah. The titrachek min hakiur, and she should avoid any type of situation where there could be scandal about her. There should never be a situation where people are talking. Umin hadomel hakiur, and anything that's close to that. So a woman has to be careful how she behaves outside the house and inside the house. V'chen tzivu chachamim. And remember, it takes two to tango. Sheyehe Adam, this is talking about the man now, mechabed et ishto yoter migufo. A man has to have honor for his wife more than he has honor for himself. Ve'ohava kegufo. And he has to love her like he loves himself. That means the more a man loves himself, the more he has to love his wife. So the more egotistical the guy is, the more he has to love her. V'im yesh lo mamon, and if he has money, marbe betovata kefi mamono. He has to give of that money as much as he can. You heard that just fine. Velo yatil alea ema yetera. And he shouldn't be a lunatic. He shouldn't basically that she's afraid to do anything because he's always crazy. This is very dangerous. Because what's going to happen? She's going to miss a day in counting for the mikveh, or she's going to forget to do something. And because she's petrified that he's going to come home and have a fit, she tells him that everything's okay when it's not. This is not allowed. This is not allowed for a rabbi of a community, and this is not allowed for a husband in the home. V'yeh diburo ima benahat. And how should the husband be speaking to the wife? Calmly. Even if she's not so calm. And that's not easy. When someone's yelling at you, it's very easy to yell back. V'lo ye'atzev v'lo ragzan. He should not be sad or angry. We see, what does this mean? That the emotional state of the husband often helps to set the tone for the wife. If he's sad, she's going to be sad. V'chen tzivu al isha. And the rabbi said about the woman again. Shetiyeh mechabedet et ba'ala beyoter midai. She should honor her husband a lot. But it doesn't say more than herself. That's for the man. They are listening. Don't worry about it. No, this is about the women, though. This women have to listen. They want to listen. You don't want them to listen to this, right? V'yeh aleh mora mimenu. And she should show proper, I don't say fear, it's not right. She should show him the respect. Respect with awe, which means if he's doing all of these things and behaving in this way, she should show him that level. V'ta'aseh kol ma'aseh al piv. And she should do what he asks, as long as he's not crazy. And most of the time, women don't need to be told this, because they're doing it anyway. This is more of when there's problems. Sometimes they're not doing that. And this is how we fix these issues. And basically, she has to be very, very careful with his ego. That's what the Rambam is really saying here. So in summary, there's a lot of things we learn in the world, secular world, that are completely wrong. Part of the reason why we have such difficulties today is because we abandoned what our Chachamim told us. And we didn't learn it from our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents for whatever reason. But the sooner we recognize that this is an issue and we have to work on this, the less likely we're going to pass this down to the next generation. And the most important thing a person has to remember, there's three people in the relationship, man, God, and the wife. The more a person involves God in the relationship, the better it's going to be for both of them. And for the children, for the youngsters who are looking to get married, take your parents' opinion into serious consideration, especially if they're giving you good reasons. And if there's a question, she'elat chacham, ask a rabbi. Both people, not just this boy goes to his rabbi, they go to a Rav together and they discuss this to see what the Rav's opinion is in that situation. And remember, when you're dating, one other thing I forgot to mention before, when the guy wants the package, he's going to behave in various ways to get what he's looking for. It's often very difficult to tell about the person, how they behave. More important is to look how they behave with other people. How they treat the waiter or the waitress, how they treat the person who's parking their car. These are the things that you want to be very observant of. And as far as the men are concerned, the Talmud says, again, she might also want the package, so she's going to hide certain things. Always look to her brothers. Hopefully she has brothers. And if the brothers are Yirei Shamayim, chances are inside her there's Yirat Shamayim as well. That's what the Talmud tells us. Okay, anybody have any questions? We covered a lot of ground, and there's plenty more to talk about. Anybody have any questions? Everybody's quiet. Now, the best way to do Shalom Bayit classes, by the way, which this is sort of like an introductory kind of thing, I guess we're always introducing, is really we should be doing this separate between men and women, because then you have this other kind of dynamic that we saw going on over there. When I tell the women what their responsibility are, then the husbands say, you see, I told you. And when I tell the men what their responsibilities are, the women say, you see, I told you. So it's much better we have these things separately. We tell the women what their responsibilities are. We tell the men what their responsibilities are. If they want to go home and share their responsibilities, kol hakavod, go right ahead. But again, this is probably the most important thing that we can work on in our lives. Many of us lose focus. We're concerned about our business. We're concerned about other things. The relationship is the most important thing. The marriage is important. And there's nothing more important than the marriage. And as far as success with the children, the Stipler said that there are two ingredients to success with the children. And there's no greater suffering for parents when the children are, God forbid, off the derech. The Gemara says in Masechet Brachot that when children go off the derech, it's worse than Gog uMagog. And there are many rabbis who didn't want to live to the time of Gog. They didn't want to see the Mashiach because they didn't want to have to worry about Gog uMagog. So children who go off the derech is really, really agmat nefesh for parents. So stay on the derech, children. You're part of the chain. And you want to make sure that you're going to bring up the next generation the right way. Okay. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.